Hello everyone, I'm Vishal Salsekar and today we are going to cover the News Today articles for 9th of April. So in today's discussion we are going to cover 5 important articles in detail. The first article is regarding the report on the land inequality in India. So already we have seen multiple times that there are inequality that is persisting in society, that certain number of population is having the concentration of whether it is wealth, whether it is the possession of land, and eventually now this particular report that is released regarding the land inequality in India that talks about the disparity in the land inequality. So that's why we are going to talk about this particular article. Next is regarding the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. So there has been some ban that has been imposed by Government of India regarding the new license for the HFCs. Regarding this, we are going to talk about what exactly is the Kigali Amendment, what are the steps that India had taken in this particular regard, and what are HFCs in general. Next is regarding the Kalachuri Dynasty. So recently there has been a step well that has been found near the Elephant Island. Now we are going to talk about from the perspective of history that what exactly was the Kalachuri Dynasty, what were the important periods concerning to that particular dynasty and certain important contributions. The next is regarding the India's rank, which is ranked 3rd in the installed capacity for the renewable energy. So previously we had talked about the wind energy, now we are talking about the comprehensive basket of the renewable energy, and there we will talk about that what are the initiatives that the Government of India has taken which resulted into rise of the India's steps in the renewable energy. Last in this we are going to talk about the National Quantum Mission. We will talk about that how government has recently achieved certain feat with respect to the quantum computing, and it has achieved roughly the secure quantum communication for roughly over a distance of 1000 kilometers. So we will talk about what is going to be the significance of this particular thing. Then in the places in news we are talking about Turkey, and then there are certain other quick updates. So let's start the discussion with the first article regarding the World Inequality Lab, which has released the report Land Inequality in India. Now see, whenever there are reports and that particular reports highlight certain important aspects, apart from those things which are being highlighted, the report itself sometimes becomes important, and UPSC can ask a quick fact with respect to the report that recently there was a land inequality in India report was there in news. It was released by which particular authority? It can be asking regarding the rural ministry, it might be asking regarding Niti Aayog, it might be talking about the World Inequality Lab. So they have an idea regarding which is the concerning authority which has released this report. Now from the perspective of the UPSC examination GS paper 3, where the inclusive growth and inequality is one of the prominent topic, apart from that GS paper 2 social justice, GS paper 2 governance, this is going to become a prominent topic. Now this is going to give you a data regarding what exactly is the amount of inequality or the magnitude of inequality and how we can reduce these particular inequality, what were the causative factors and what might be the solution in this particular regard. Now the report's title was the Land Inequality in India, the Nature, History and the Market. So it highlights the comprehensive factors that there was certain things pertaining to the nature, certain things with respect to the historical aspects, and certain things with respect to the market or the recent market conditions, how that are leading to the rise of inequality in India, right? So this particular thing is encompassing the data from the 10 major Indian states. Now this is talking about the rural population, right? The rural inequality mainly. Now, this is composing roughly 75% of the rural population. So that means this particular data is very, very important because this is giving you a large set of chunk, and this you can utilize in your mains answers in order to substantiate your argument with respect to the inequality. Now, what are the key findings? These are the reports related aspects, factual things, but these can be utilized in your answer in order to do the value addition. Now, what are the things? First is regarding the extreme wealth concentration. So this talks about that what is the magnitude of inequality. So this report says that the top 10% of the rural household own the 44% of the total land area. Means 10% population or the 10% household, 44% of the land area. That means this is showing that for the bottom, or we can say the rest of the 90%, it is going to be comparatively roughly around 56%. So that shows there is a pattern of inequality that is being observed. Now this inequality is guided by or provided by, there is a curve known as the Lorenz curve. So through the Lorenz curve, we are identifying this particular inequality. And then there is a coefficient that is talking about inequality that ranges from the value from 0 to 1. In terms of percentage, obviously it is from the 0 to 100%, and that coefficient is known as the Gini coefficient, right? Now, this is also talking about the widespread landlessness. So that means that shows regarding that how many people do not even possess the land. So it talks about that roughly 46% of the rural Indian household that do not possess land. That means ek taraf there are 10% population, roughly 44% of the land concentration, and 46% population is landless. So this shows the disparity between the two extremes, right? Next is talking about the village level land Gini coefficient that talks about the inequality pertaining at the village level with respect to the land redistribution, and this particular land distribution ke context mein it is 71.1%. That means if we talk about the value, it is 0.71, somewhere around this. So that shows that this, and this should be in the terms of percentage, right? This is percentage, 71%, right? So basically what does it tell? It talks about that there is a disparity. If the number is lesser, the inequality is lower. If the number is higher, reaching towards 100%, the inequality is comparatively more. Now, it is also talking about that there are certain person, एक होता है ना कि there is one prominent zamindar and that is holding or having the concentration of the majority of land. So that means the dominant landlord is the single largest landlord in that particular village that covers roughly around 12%. So we can assume that we were talking previously about 10% holding 44% of land. Usme bhi a single individual is having possession of more than 12%. This is on a average basis. So that talks about that the wealth inequality or the land related inequality is comparatively higher. Now, it also talks about the disparity, so it is classifying the states. So when it is talking about the highest inequality, it talks about Kerala. So Kerala is having the highest inequality, means agar Gini coefficient ke context mein if you talk about, the Gini coefficient will be more in Kerala. When we talk about the lowest, so lowest means Gini coefficient will be lesser. So Karnataka and Rajasthan are the state where the Gini coefficient is lesser, that means the inequality is lower. Next is the rate of landlessness. So this particular landlessness ka rate is comparatively higher in the region of Punjab, which is having 73%. So that shows that this is the comprehensive set of idea, whether it is the highest inequality or lowest inequality or the highest rate. This report is giving you an idea in order to write certain pointer in your notebook wherever you are talking about the inequality. So in those notes, you can incorporate this particular data. World Inequality Lab, and this is the data regarding the rural population or the rural household. So this can give you the value addition related to the inequality related aspects. Now, talking about what are the factors, so it talks about there are three type of factor. There is a nature related factor, there are factor with respect to history, and there are market link factor. Now, when we talk about the nature related factor, which were the first type of factor that we talk about, it is about the facilities. So जैसे suppose करो, if there is productivity of that particular region gets increased, or that particular region में there are more firms and they became comparatively more productive. Now in those particular situations, chances are very, very high that those population which might not be able to earn better from their land, they are going to sell their land, and the land is going to go towards those people जो कि already they are having the existing much amount of land. So that will increase the concentration of land. So this is based upon the nature. So high productivity facility will reduce the agricultural output and in general the agricultural land, and then eventually, or may not be necessarily the agricultural land per se, but from that individual that land is now sold, because that person would now try to explore opportunity in certain other high productive sectors. Next is certain historical aspects, so like British zamindari or the landlord system, right? So there was systems like the permanent settlement system or the zamindari system, right? And eventually what it had done, it had led to the concentration of land to certain set of people. That was not obviously the equitable or the equal amount of concentration. So that's where the land inequality got rise. Apart from that, social stratification. So also we know that in the society there are many such type of divisions. There are divisions based upon religion, there are divisions based upon caste. So the socially deprived sections are generally getting impacted with respect to this land inequality. So if we talk about the Dalit population or those who are coming from the backward communities, chances are high that because of the social stratification also the land inequality might persist. Last is regarding the market. So the third factor is regarding the market. So economic integration. So जब economic integration होता है, there is a transition going on from agriculture to the economic other avenues of economy, right? And in that situation, what the person might think, like the first factor, like the nature, there is going to be more focus towards the market. So the agricultural output is declining, and eventually the people are shifting from one sector to another, which in this particular case leading to the selling of land, and eventually that particular concentration is rising to certain other people. Now, what can be the steps that have been taken or that were already taken by the government? So the first regarding the land reform post-independence. So we have seen there were comprehensive set of land reform, though the impact was not that predominant, but the steps were taken. There was Zamindari Abolition Act, there was Land Ceiling Act, then there was Tenancy Reform Act, right? So all these type of acts were laid down in order to ensure the equitable land redistribution. Then the Bhudan and the Gramdan movement, like led by the personalities like Acharya Vinoba Bhave, right? So the Bhudan and Gramdan movement are basically relying upon the voluntary distribution or voluntary relinquishment of the land in order to remove or in order to course correct the historical injustices. Next is regarding the Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. So this is talking about that there are many patches of land which were previously not being geotagged or may not be in the government's repository. Now there is, if there is the land records modernization, so there will be digital tagging of that particular land, and it is going to reduce any type of spillage. So Bhumi project in Karnataka is one such example. Forest Right Act, which is providing the land right to the forest dwellers. So there is a Forest Right Act of 2006 which recognizes the forest dwellers as the people who are possessing right over that particular land. So the 4 hectare of the land in the forest area which they are dwelling for more than 3 generations or more than 75 years. Last is the Right to Fair Compensation and Transparency in the Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act. So these are certain changes with respect to the land related reform. So these are the steps that the government has incorporated in order to reduce inequality, but still the inequality persists, and that's where the role of certain other schemes which provides the fair compensation, fair remuneration, and apart from that ensuring that there should be a holistic repository which is going to ensure that there should not be much inequality that remains. So for that, obviously first step is to gather the data. Now these are the reports which are talking about the data in that particular regard. So the course corrective measures can be taken further based upon this set of data. Next is regarding the India to discontinue the new clearances for the HFCs, the hydrofluorocarbons production post 2027. So now from the perspective of GS paper 3, environment and ecology, climate change, governance, these are important aspects. Now, when we are talking about that, government has now will now stop giving the license to the new HFCs corporation, जो कि hydrofluorocarbons बनाते हैं. Now, what exactly had happened? That now try to recall the year 1985 when there was Vienna Convention. Now after the Vienna Convention, it was observed that the global ozone layer is getting depleted, and we are talking about the ozone layer which is in the stratosphere, which is preventing Earth from the different type of ultraviolet radiations that can eventually cause a lot of harm to the human beings. And that's where this particular Vienna Convention led the reduction of the ozone depleting substances, and for that there was a need for protocol, and hence the Montreal Protocol was taken in 1987 in order to remove the ozone depleting substances. And eventually that particular ozone depleting substances like the chlorofluorocarbon, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, halogens, these particular substance ka utilization was phased out eventually. But in a replacement to that were ensured the hydrofluorocarbons, क्योंकि hydrofluorocarbons are not causing the depletion of ozone layer. But there is another issue associated with these particular hydrofluorocarbon, and this particular issue is the global warming potential, because the global warming potential of these particular hydrofluorocarbon is comparatively very, very high. If we compare it with, let's say, carbon dioxide or methane, it is very, very high, and that's where the issue comes. So we have reduced the ozone depleting substances, but what we have introduced has led to the rise of the global warming potential, or the absorption to the sun rays, and that is going to increase the earth surface temperature. And that's where in the Kigali Amendment in 2016 to the Montreal Protocol, we have taken pledge in order to phase out the hydrofluorocarbons also. So now the Kigali Amendment which we are talking about is the amendment to the Montreal Protocol of 1987, and this is talking about the phasing down of the HFCs, or the hydrofluorocarbon. Now hydrofluorocarbon global warming potential zyada, and that's why we are phasing them out. Now what target it has been taken? So reducing the HFCs का जो utilization है by 80 to 85% by 2040s. Now eventually the targets are not same for all the countries. So the country like India have taken the targets like 10% reduction by 2032, 20% by 37, 30% by 42, and roughly 85% by 2047. So these are the targets that the government has taken. Now eventually, if you have to start phasing out them by 2032, roughly to 10%, you have to stop giving the new licenses to the firms that are working upon the HFCs, and that's why the government has taken steps that the no new licenses are going to be issued after the December 31st, 2027. So roughly we are going to get 5 years, and then we are going to phase out roughly 10% of that. So it is the India's commitment and commitment under the Kigali Amendment. Now what we have talked about is in the Montreal Protocol, we have discussed regarding the phasing out of the ozone depleting substances which are impacting basically the ozone layer. So this was part of the Vienna Convention. So Vienna Convention 1985, which talks about the harm to the ozone layer because of the ozone depleting substances, and that there was Montreal Protocol in order to phasing out the ODS. So the targets which were the chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, and the halogens. And eventually 1992 mein there has been the universal ratification to this particular treaty. And eventually, because all the countries are not at the same level of development, and hence it is the common but the differentiated responsibility, means the developed countries are expected to move at a faster pace, the developing countries are comparatively expected to move at a comparatively slower pace. Now ozone and ozone depleting substances. Now we have already talked about the ozone depleting substances, which are the chlorofluorocarbons or the hydrochlorofluorocarbons or the halogens. These are the ozone depleting substances. These are reacting with the ozone layer, which is the stratospheric layer, and eventually they are breaking down the ozone molecule, and eventually that will lead to the depletion of the ozone layer. So that will cause the issues with respect to the issues like skin cancer and many other issues which might be caused because of the ultraviolet radiations which will enter if there is absence of the ozone layer. Now because of these initiatives, the ozone layer is getting recovered. So what we are talking about here is the stratospheric ozone, and that is considered as a good ozone. Now another ozone you might be discussing or you might be having an idea about, that is the bad ozone, and that is the tropospheric ozone. So basically that particular tropospheric ozone is formed by the oxides of nitrogen and the volatile organic compounds, and then a reaction between them. So the ozone which is at the stratospheric level, that is the secondary pollutant which is formed by the chemical reaction of the primary pollutants, right? So stratospheric ozone is good ozone, the tropospheric one is the bad ozone, or the surface ozone is the bad ozone, right? Next article is regarding the 1500-year-old reservoir unearthed on the Elephanta Island. Now, when we are talking about that there is a reservoir that is unearthed, and how we are getting to know that this is a type of reservoir, because we are seeing certain steps which are leading towards certain reservoir, right? And that's how we are able to know that yes, this might be the reservoir. Now how we are getting to know regarding that which particular dynasty it is related to? So we have identified certain coins which are of copper, lead, and through that we have identified that it is related to the dynasty which is the dynasty associated with that particular region, which was the Kalachuri Dynasty. Now From the perspective of GS paper 1, it is important. Now, what is the exact context? So, ASI have excavated the sophisticated stepped reservoir on the Elephanta Island. So, first thing which is important is where this particular Elephanta Island is situated. So, it is roughly 10 kilometers off the coast of Mumbai region. So, it is situated very near to the Mumbai region, specifically lying in the Raigad district. Now, this particular region is holding the caves which are also associated with the Brahminical traditions also. So, we are seeing the Trimurti Shiva that is available in this particular Elephanta caves. Now, how we got to know regarding that which particular dynasty? So, we have identified certain coins which is related to the Krishna Raja of the Kalachuri Dynasty, and then we got to know that it is related to somewhere around like 6th, 7th century CE, right? Now, Elephanta Island, it is also known as Garpuri, which is located off the coast of Mumbai. Now, numerous powers which have ruled. So, we have already seen that there were Mauryans, there were Chalukya, there were Rashtrakoot, Yadavs, Portuguese, Marathas, and even the Britishers have taken that particular region in their control. And if you see the locations, if you see different type of artifacts, you will get to know that the influence has been observed. Now, Elephanta caves are the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, more important over here is the dynasty and certain prominent contribution, because see, if you will, from the perspective of the prelims or mains examination, if you will read about each and every dynasty to that particular detail, eventually the cost benefit will be lesser. So, if there is any dynasty which is there in news because of any specific reason, just say in this reason, it is because of the stepped reservoir. So, that's why this dynasty can become comparatively more important. देखो जो बड़े dynasties है, which are the major dynasties that are comparatively important every year, even without some context. But then some smaller dynasties or those dynasties usually we are not reading much about, those might get important if there is any context attached to that. So in this case, the Kalachuri dynasty. Now what Kalachuri dynasty was, how we got to know about this particular dynasty? So we got to know about this dynasty through the Brahminical epics and the Purans. So the Purans, epics, these are talking about the Kalachuri dynasty. Now they were the Kshatriya rulers of different regions. If we talk about the regions, Gujarat, the region of Madhya Pradesh, region of Maharashtra, region of Karnataka. So during different time period, roughly from the 6th century AD or CE to roughly we can say 12th or 13th century CE, we are able to get an idea regarding the different regions where this particular dynasty was ruling. So the early Kalachuri dynasty was situated near the region of Maheshmati. So it was including the region of present-day Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. So it was at the convergence region of the Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. So it was the early Kalachuri dynasty or the Kalachuris of Maheshmati, roughly 6th century CE. And this is the time period when the Krishna Raja was ruling, and Krishna Raja ke hi coins wahan par mile hain. So that means you can associate them with the early Kalachuris or the Kalachuri of Maheshmati. The next is the Kalachuri of Chedi region, which is near the region of Tripuri. So the Kalachuris of Chedi or Kalachuris of Tripuri, that is near about the region of Tripuri, which is in the present day Madhya Pradesh, near the Jabalpur region. Now Tripuri is also famous for another thing. 1939 का जो Indian Congress का National Congress का session था, which was held in Tripuri, presided obviously the president was elected. It was Subhash Chandra Bose. And in that particular session, Congress shed its previous stand where it was previously not providing support to the movement which are going on in the princely states. From now onwards, 1939, similar region to Tripuri, they started supporting the initiatives. So I have given you just the context कि भाई इस तरीके से भी UPSC might interlink. So it was around 9th century, right? Modern day Jabalpur region. Now the important rulers Kokala, then the Gangaya Dev and the Vijay Simha. Now see again, I would reiterate that rulers के नाम उतने ज़रूरी नहीं है, but just having an idea regarding that, and if there is anything important, for example, there were Kalachuris of Kalyani. Now you might have heard about these people roughly the 12th and 13th century. Why? Because there was a prominent minister who was Basavana, and the Basavana was the founder of the Veerashaiva or the Lingayat tradition. So when you are reading the Bhakti and the Sufi movement, in the Bhakti movement you will read regarding the Bhakti movement in the Karnataka region, where the contribution of the Basavana, his different type of compositions that you are going to read about. So Vachans are the compositions of Basavana and the Veerashaiva or the Lingayat tradition that is still prevalent in the region of Karnataka. So the Kalachuris of Kalyani were ruling nearby the region of convergence of the Maharashtra and Karnataka, right? Now, other contributions of the Kalachuri dynasty. So, in the context of religion and society, there were certain contributions. जैसे Brahmanism को they were patronizing, the Shaivism and the Vaishnavism were the predominant aspects that were there in that particular region of Kalachuri dynasty. Apart from that, even the Shakti worship, and that's why we see that the region which was being ruled by them, there we are seeing the 64 Yogini temple also that was there, and that is attributed to the Shakti worship. Apart from that, the other temples that were there. ठीक है, इसके अलावा there were rock cut architecture. So you have seen the cave architecture in this particular region of the Elephanta. Apart from that, there is Ellora cave, there is Jogeshwari, there are Aurangabad caves where they have contributed. So basically, these things can become the stone on which the UPSC can ask the question. Like, they can ask you regarding the Basavana, that can become important. They can ask you regarding the Ellora or the dynasties which are associated with Ellora or dynasties which are associated with Elephanta. So have an idea regarding that, and that's how this particular type of question can be asked. Next is regarding the India ranked third globally in the renewable energy installed capacity. Now, a few days back, we have discussed an article where the year-on-year basis पे जितना rise होता है. So, for this particular year, the rise of the wind energy production that has been not one of the highest, it was the highest rise, right? So, that's where now the renewable energy capacity के बारे में भी there is a report which talks about that India is at the third place with respect to the installed capacity of renewable energy, and this is roughly around 275 gigawatt, which is third highest. The first is China, de facto leader of the renewable energy. Roughly half of the world's renewable energy is being produced by China, more than 2200 gigawatt. US is roughly 450 ke around gigawatt, and third is India, roughly 275 gigawatt. And that's where India is doing significant improvement with respect to the energy security through the renewable energy. And we are also close to achieve the target, and already we have achieved significantly, like the NDCs, so we have already achieved 50% by 2030 tha, and we have already achieved 50% within 2025 itself. The 50% of the India's total energy that is produced from the renewable energy resources, or we can say non-fossil fuel based resources, right? Now, talking about the context, so ARENA ka report tha, IRENA, Renewable Energy Agency, that renewable energy statistics that talks about that India ranked third after China and US. Now, status kya hai? Roughly 274.68 gigawatt. Now, solar energy de facto leader in India, 150 gigawatt. Now, this has increased significantly, because if you see in 2014, roughly there was 2 to 3 gigawatt. Now, it has increased to 150 plus. And obviously, thanks to the initiatives that were led by the government. Wind energy, roughly it was somewhere around like 20 gigawatt. But see, again, in the last article also, we have talked about that wind energy ke context mein, the installation cost is high, and also the selective places pe you can reap out this. And that's where the issue arises, right? So 56 gigawatt, and then there are large hydropower. So jo large hydropower projects hain, 51 gigawatt, bioenergy 11, nuclear 8.78. Now this is also going to increase significantly, because we have achieved criticality with respect to the faster breeder reactor at Kalpakkam, and then the small hydro power project. Generally, these are the run of the river type of projects. Now, talking about the initiatives through which we have achieved the renewable energy ke context mein improvement. So the first is regarding the sector specific initiatives. So there were certain schemes that were taken by government, for example, solar mission, incentivization of solar energy production, then the PM Kusum for the Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthan Mahabhiyan for the irrigation related aspects, National Green Hydrogen Mission for the other aspects of the renewable energy, bioenergy program for the bioenergy generation, small hydro scheme. So basically what you are doing over here, you are making the conditions easy, you are ensuring the ease of doing business, you are giving certain type of incentives, you are providing the best practices, you are supporting through the hand holding wala approach, and through this eventually there was rise of the renewable energy ka production. Next is the financial and the tax incentive. So the financial incentives, there are viability gap funding, then there are certain other things, just a GST reduction on the components, right? supporting the domestic manufacturing of the components. Renewable equipment पे basic custom duty which are being imported, the custom duty got reduced, so eventually the overall cost is going to get declined. Next is the policy and the regulatory reform. So policy reform में renewable purchase obligation means how much renewable energy is going to be produced, let's say by any institution, that will be then purchased by the service provider, or in this particular case by the discoms, right? So that is going to ensure that there is comparatively better remuneration available than the virtual power purchase agreement. So prior hand only there will be sense of security that if there will be not much amount of energy that will be produced, then at least there are certain agreement regarding the purchase of power, right? Then ease of doing business. Next is the infrastructure support, so green energy corridor, so through which you are developing the entire set of infrastructure. Then wind site mapping means how you are going to know that which particular area is having high potential, so through this you are going to know, right? Research and development facilities, right? Promoting the domestic manufacturing and R&D, so the domestic manufacturing को support करना. Then apart from that, the quality control, all these things are being promoted, and the Vayu Mitra and certain other programs are the initiative which the government is running in order to boost the domestic manufacturing and R&D. And eventually, see, this is very, very important, because if we are not doing the domestic manufacturing, that eventually we have to import a lot from the countries like China, which is the de facto leader in this particular technology and production of the renewable energy related wafers. So in this sense, the research and development and reduction of the import and more domestic production is very, very important. Next is the favorable geography, because India is having the large coastline, more than 7,500 kilometer. Apart from that, what we are having different type of terrain. We are having even the potential with respect to the biomass energy. We are having the potential with respect to the coastal energy, ocean thermal energy. We are having the vast set of rivers, so the river based energy. So all these things are being provided by the favorable geography, and then decentralized renewable energy initiative. So even the states are taking their own set of initiative. So all these are combinedly and comprehensively providing avenues in order to boost the renewable energy ka rise. Now significance kya hai? See, again, it is directly proportional to the reduction of the carbon emission. So if there will be more renewable energy adoption, the carbon emission is going to come down, and eventually there will be ensuring of the carbon emission intensity. So these are also part of the nationally determined contribution. So this is going to reduce the emission. Energy security bhi badhega, because eventually, now see, right now what we are facing in the context of the crisis of certain things, just a strategic crisis chal raha in the Strait of Hormuz. Now energy security will be available, so India will be not much reliant upon the other countries, right? So there will be dependence on the fossil fuel, that will be reduced, and strategic and the global role, because already India is a energy dependent country, and right now if we have to boost the rise of, let's say, different type of industries, for this you will need the energy resources, and that's why this is very, very important, right? Last in this is regarding the National Quantum Mission, which has achieved the 1,000 kilometer square secure communication, right? So again, from the perspective of technology, from science and tech, cyber security, internal security, this is a important topic. Now, talking about this particular initiative, what is the context? So it is basically a major milestone, which is one of the longest quantum key distribution deployment globally. So 1,000 kilometer ka secure communication. This is going to ensure that the quantum key distribution deployment is roughly successful for the 1,000 kilometer ka region jahan par secure communication can be ensured, and this is the landmark achievement to secure the quantum communication. Now quantum communication is based upon the qubits, jahan par if there is any type of alteration that is tried to be done with that particular thing, the system detects that and the message went. ठीक है, तो उस केस में message gets destroyed and eventually you will not be able to get that particular data. So it ensures the secure communication, that through the quantum key only you will be able to get this particular data. So for this, again, if India is going to boost these type of things, eventually we are going to ensure the secure communication. Now this secure communication will be helping to ensure better health related data sharing, education, then defense and many other strategic sectors where it is going to boost the the India's self-reliance, right? And eventually we will be able to ensure the self-development. Now, what is quantum communication? So it is encoding. So the message which is going to get transmitted, it is first encoded and then transmitted information between the quantum systems. So quantum systems ke beech mein information ka transmission, but it is now secured. If there is any external alteration, that particular message is it is completely gone, right? So the quantum key distribution is the thing jahan par creating the sharing the secret encryption keys using the principle of quantum mechanics. Means at the source and at the destination there will be, once there will be secure quantum key distribution that is done, then only there will be access to data, right? Now it relies on the quantum state that changes when when observed and allowing the interception attempt to be detected. So if there is any interception attempt, it will detect this and eventually it will destroy the message. So the quantum communication, it uses the light, which is the photons, to encode the information, enable the fast and the low error transmission. So eventually it is ensuring the a secure type of transmission, which is very, very important for the defense, financial system, critical infrastructures. Now, talking about the difference between the quantum communication and the classical communication. So when we talk about the quantum communication, it is information where information is carried in the form of qubits or the quantum bits. So basically it is existing between 0 to 1. ऐसा नहीं कि it is either 0 or 1, which is the case of the classical communication. So it can be represented in multiple form, and that's why the speed enhances with respect to the system, and the state is also comparatively not easy to detect, right? Now, classical communication, it can be read and copied endlessly without being destroyed, and here it is governed by the principle of non-cloning theorem, which forbids copying an unknown quantum state, and hence the quantum signal cannot be amplified using the traditional repeaters. Now, in the case of the classical communication, system does not change the information, observing the system does not change the information, and it basically the quantum communication, what it ensures that it acts of measuring of qubits permanently alter its states. So basically this does not allow the alteration of the state, and eventually then this ensures the secure type of communication. Now for this, government had initiated the National Quantum Mission. So it was initiated for roughly 7 years. So 2023-24 to lekar 2030-31 tak this was applied. Now, Department of Science and Technology is the concerned department, Ministry of Science and Technology, right? Key objective kya hai? Again, to ensure the secure communication, to strengthen India with respect to the data secure country. Apart from that, the fast and the seamless transfer of data, secure communication, right? So develop the intermediate scale quantum computer. Right now we are targeting towards, under this mission, intermediate scale quantum computers, and right now we have achieved 1000 kilometers. The objective is to ensure 2000 kilometer satellite based quantum secure communication, so that we will be able to cover the larger region of the country. Now it has designed highly sensitive quantum devices, including the magnetometer, gravity sensors and the atomic clocks. Now it is developed and synthesized the next generation quantum material. So basically it is also talking about the quantum material such as superconductors, novel semiconductors structure and the other topological material. So basically now, rather than going into much technical details, you should be having an idea from the perspective of means the application should be important. From the perspective of prelims, now the terminologies which are associated with the quantum computing. जैसे UPSC ने qubit के बारे में पूछा था. So similarly, there can be question regarding this thing like quantum entanglement क्या है, quantum superimposition क्या है, right? So these things you can have an idea about. The next is the places in news, and today's place in news is Turkey. Now you can see this particular region, Turkey, with the capital city Ankara. Now what is the context? Now see, you might have seen that after the Operation Sindoor, there was a relationship breakdown between India and Turkey, because the Turkey stand towards Pakistan and India versus Pakistan conflict, and that's why India and Turkey relation also got to one of the newest lows, and that's why now India and Turkey are trying to ensure the redevelopment of the relation, so fostering of the bilateral relation. So that's why this particular region of Turkey is important. Now region of Turkey is very, very important because it is a very important region as a connecting link between the Europe, which is on the western side, and Asia on the eastern side. So it is also known as the Eurasian country. Now The Turkey, which was erstwhile known as the Constantinople, which was a major trade route between the Asia and the region of Europe. Now you can see that this is the region which ensures the connectivity between both the regions. Now if you see its geography, there is on the northern side it is Black Sea, on this particular side a smaller sea that you are able to observe over here, and this is known as the Sea of Marmara, and here it is the Aegean Sea. So this is the region of Aegean Sea, and here it is the Mediterranean Sea on the southern side. Now there are certain straits also. So there is a Dardanelles Strait between this. So there is Dardanelles Strait between the Aegean Sea and the Sea of Marmara, and Bosphorus Strait between the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. So this is the Bosphorus Strait. Now talking about the countries, so there is a country known as Greece. Greece यहाँ पर है on the western side, Bulgaria is there, then in the northern side it is the Black Sea, then there is Georgia, Armenia, and there is also connectivity with Azerbaijan, because this is the enclave of Azerbaijan which is known as Nakhchivan, right? So this is also connected to this particular region of Turkey. Then there is Iraq also, there is Syria also, and here it is a smaller country which is Cyprus. So all these are connected with this. Cyprus obviously with the maritime linkage, right? Now apart from that, there are certain important places, like there is the Anatolia Plateau, which is very important region in Turkey. Then there are major mountain ranges, like there is Taurus, then there is Korglu, there is Pontic ranges, right? So these are certain things which you should be having a brief idea about. Just locate them on the map. UPSC will not exactly will ask you to arrange all these eventually, but they might give you one of these, and eventually one from, let's say, Iran, one from India, one from, let's say, Malaysia, and then they will be asking you to arrange from north to south or east to west. In that case they can do. Highest peak kaun si hai? Mount Ararat. Now the rivers, there is Tigris, there is Euphrates, then there are Sakarya is there, then there is Kizilirmak is there. So these are the important river. Apart from that, there is major lake, which is the Lake 1. And Lake 1 is important because it is the largest alkaline lake of the world. So that's why this particular region is important, right? So if you have read the history, and if you have read the world history, there was Ottoman Empire. So Ottoman Empire during the 1914 ka jo World War hua tha, in that particular case, Ottoman Empire was mainly around this particular region only. So Turkey and the nearby region was the part of the Ottoman Empire. Now having discussed about that, now let's talk about certain other quick updates. First in this is the pulsar. Now the pulsar, basically you might have seen there are red dwarf, there are white dwarf are there, then there are supernovas are there, then there are neutron star are there are pulsars, right? So these terminologies and a brief idea regarding what exactly are them should be known to you, because from the perspective of science and tech it is important. Now these methodologies which are mentioned over here might not be that important from exam perspective, but since because of some news pulsar was there in news, so you should be having an idea regarding what exactly are pulsar. So Indian scientists find the way to measure the distance in the deep space, and that's why the pulsar was there in news. So pulsar kya hote hain? These are the highly magnetized, rapidly rotating neutron stars. And how they are formed? They are formed after the supernova explosion. So after supernova explosion, that emit the narrow beams of electromagnetic radiation from the magnetic pole. So after supernova explosion, there is the rapidly rotating neutron star, and then that is formed by the emission of the narrow beams of the electromagnetic radiation. So this is the pulsar. Now this pulsar is eventually a pulsating type of star, and through that you can basically have measurement of time, and that can also act as an atomic type of clock, right? Now there has been some changes that were done by the scientists in order to measure the distance in the deep space. Now what they have done, they have combined the dispersion measure and the scatter broadening method. So what exactly are these methods? No need to go in detail, just have an idea about the dispersion measure kya hai. That measures the delay in pulse signal. So one signal, then another signal, measuring the delay between them. And then the scatter broadening, this is how pulsar signals are spread and distorted due to the turbulence. So both gives an idea regarding the time and the conditions also, and that is going to give you an idea regarding how to measure time, and through that you can measure the distance also, right? Next is regarding the skills outcome fund. So it is a outcome based fund or outcome based funding. So Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship have initiated a campaign in order to build the skill outcome fund. So skill outcome fund based upon the outcome achieved or output achieved. So that means these are the impact based funds. So it is basically one of the prominent initiative जिसके जैसा पहले भी एक इनिशिएटिव लिया गया था, स्किल इम्पैक्ट बॉन्ड. सो स्किल इम्पैक्ट बॉन्ड वर बेस्ड अपॉन हाउ दैट पर्टिकुलर skill is achieved, and then based upon that it is going to incentivize those people who are financially supporting this. It can provide the support to the people who are coming from the low strata of the society, and this particular support is going to be driven by the industrial expert. It can be driven by or for basically the employment generation in general. So it built the success on the success of the first outcome based initiative like the skill impact bond, which was launched by the National Skill Development Corporation in 2021. Now what it will do, it will unlock the aspirational livelihood for the youth to ensure that they should get certain type of things like the entrepreneurship. They will be able to ensure that the skills will be utilizable. So it will be important for those people who are coming from the poor background. Now anchored by the National Skill Development Corporation, now it adopt the blended finance model to create the sustainable livelihood opportunity for youth. So sustainable livelihood opportunity for youth. Next is regarding the hydroelectric project. So Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, which is chaired by the Prime Minister, that had given the approval for two particular hydroelectric project, Kalai 2 and Kamala project, and these two are situated in the region of Arunachal Pradesh. Simply UPSC can ask about that, first which state they are related to, and second which particular river. So Kalai 2 is related to the Lohit river, which is one of the tributary of Brahmaputra, right? And then Kamala hydroelectric project is on the Kamala river, which is a tributary of the Subansiri river. So that's why this is important aspect. Next is regarding from borrowers to builders, the Women and India's Evolving Credit Market report. So this particular report talks about that how women are right now at the forefront of this particular credit related aspects, and now they are also taking more credit, and this more credit taking is going to ensure that how they are also progressing, they are also doing the contribution, their respective set of contribution towards the nation development. And kaise? Because more credit is going to generate more employment opportunity, more investment, and eventually this is going to ensure the development from the side of women. So Niti Aayog ka report hai, which is highlighting the rising participation of women in the formal credit system. So the women household 76 lakh crore credit, roughly 26% of the total, which women holds. This particular amount of credit is being held by women. Next is credit exposure. So the credit exposure of women also grew roughly 4.8 times since 2017. So now previously there was problem that women might not be possessing, let's say, land, because the land possession was comparatively lesser. Apart from that, formal documents might not be possessed, and that's why they had to take the credit. They were already taking the credit, but the credit has to be taken from the informal market. Now the more credit is taken from the formal market, and that is ensuring the credit penetration also and ensuring the development at the end of women. Now this is showing the shift in borrowing, transition from microfinance to the retail and the business loan. So that shows that the women are also growing with respect to this particular set of development. Now regional spread kahan par zyada hai? In the region of Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, these are the regions jahan pe this penetration is comparatively higher. Next is regarding the nutrient based scheme, subsidy scheme, right? So nutrient based subsidy means it's not only now for the urea based fertilizer, but for the P and K, phosphorus and the potassium based fertilizers also. The cabinet approved 12% hike in the nutrient based subsidy for the phosphatic and the potassic fertilizers, right, for the Kharif season. Now it is launched by government in 2010 by the Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizer. Concerned ministry's important objective kya tha? So that there should not be over utilization of urea, because that we see in the rural areas, and apart from that in general in agriculture also, that there is comparatively more use of the fertilizer, and that particular fertilizer is mainly urea, and that is increasing more nitrogen, and it is not giving the balance to other two type of macronutrient, and that is creating the imbalance, right? So balance use of fertilizer reducing the subsidy burden on the government. Now the subsidy is linked to the nutrient content and primarily nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium and sulfur, right? So it is based upon this. Now it is including roughly 28 grades of the potassium, phosphorus and the potassium based fertilizers like the diammonium phosphate and all. Now the next article is regarding the environmental utilization of crop residue by 2023 rules. Okay, so these are the rules regarding the thermal power plants for violating. These are rules basically have highlighted that there are certain violations which are going on by the thermal power plants, and this is regarding the violation of the biomass co-firing norms of 2023. Now this is coming under which particular act? Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change is the concerned ministry. Now it is mandating the 5% biomass co-firing, means the biomass pellets should be utilized. This is the mandate of 5%, right? Using the paddy straw pellet, which the coal and the other all coal based thermal power plant, and minimum threshold is kept at 3% for the co-firing prescribed by 2024-25. Okay, so obviously a bit idea should be there that a 5% ka mandate hai and minimum it should be 3%. If you are not following this, there may be violation and then you can be penalized, right? Now what it is doing, it is promoting the XC2 crop residue management, because see, it is promoting the farmer in order to collect the crop residue and in order to give to those people who are then developing it in the form of the pellets which can be utilized by the thermal power plant. So it is applicable in the region of NCR and the adjoining area up to 300 km. Last is regarding the exercise Cyclone 4. So Indian Army contingent participated with Egypt. This is the partner, a type of exercise between India and Egypt. And every exercise is basically a type of capacity building, interoperability, and ensuring that there should be the sharing of best practices. The operation or the exercise Cyclone 4 is basically the Indian Army and the Egyptian Army ka exercise, right? Enhancing interoperability and the joint operations capability. So with this, we have completed the news today discussion of 9th April. So now there must be some question, try to solve them, and we'll meet someday again in another set of discussion. Thank you everyone.